Welcome back to another episode of the Kings Pulse podcast presented by the Kings Herald. My name is Brendan Nunez. Got Chris Watkins of Sacktown Sports 1140 joining me as always. What's up, Chris? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Just got a little wiggle in my step, and
Jesus
I'm feeling good. Kings got a big dub tonight, and no complaints. No complaints. We got another one tomorrow.
We do. We're in Golden One Center right now after the Sacramento Kings just beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Career night from Keegan Murray in points and rebounds. He's gonna be the large majority of conversation throughout this episode as Matt George sits in front of us and probably just loves to hear that.
I know.
A C maybe wasn't a fair grade for Keegan. Not gonna lie, I'll eat my crow already. Do you want to give some context to the whole wiggle thing? I tried to pull this clip and it was giving me a hard time right now, but
yeah. So it was. I think Mike said after the game, he tried to essentially just gas up Keegan, and he was like, I think he said, "Do yo shit, Keegan Murray." And he's like, Keegan's response was, I've got a little wiggle to me.
What does that mean? Like, I didn't understand. It's very Keegan. Well, and Mike also did like the whole like hands down and just like
lean back in his chair. Yeah,
it was pretty great.
It was pretty funny. And again, you can't miss a Mike Brown press conference because you never know. You literally never know what the hell is going to be said. But there's always going to be a viral moment from it,
and it will always last at least half an hour.
Oh my god! Yeah, legit. I saw your recording today.
I think it was 20 something.
It was
I think we got right
minutes.
around 20.
His pregame speeches are always really, really long too.
But not complaining.
Good for us.
And a lot of it had to do with Keegan today. And just to go through his numbers, 29 points, again, career high, 14 rebounds, which is a career high. 14 rebounds is crazy. He got more rebounds than Domantas Sabonis tonight.
Fact.
OKC is a team that is pretty bad at defensive rebounding. I think they were 29th coming into the game tonight. Obviously run a pretty small lineup out there with both the Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But Keegan was great tonight, man. I've been surprised how often throughout the course of this year that teams have been going under on him, and he's just able to stop behind Domas and get that shot off. But today, when OKC was actually chasing him on those screens and trailing him there, he put the ball on the floor and made some plays. We saw him dunk in traffic. He might have had more than one dunk tonight. We saw a little bit of a mid-range game. Like, he was shooting off the dribble and creating a little bit. Like, it was only a couple dribbles, but there's no wasted movement, which I think is great. But I think we've talked about it before. It was something like 72% of his shots were off 0 dribbles.
Yep.
And that's fine for right now. Matt asked Coach a good question post-game about just how different this is for Keegan compared to some of these other rookies. Just the context of being on a team that's expected to win, being on a good team like the Sacramento Kings, Chris, of course.
Right.
And Keegan just doesn't have, they can't really run the ball through him. Like Coach said they did at the beginning of the year when he was coming off the bench in that second unit. But tonight is, like, in my mind, easily the best game of Keegan Murray's career. I think that goes without question, but a huge sign of like promise when it comes to his future development, because we had not seen really anything off the dribble.
Yeah, I think to me this was like it was even before he had 29 points. It might have been after he had 16 or 18. You looked at me, it was like third quarter, and you're like, is this Keegan's best game right now? And even though he hadn't reached his career high in points or anything, you could just feel that something was different tonight. Like you mentioned, the different shots that he was getting up, a couple off the dribble, coming off of the Domas 2-man game. Like, it looked incredible. We saw also an assist today that looked great off of pick and roll.
Really nice assist.
He sprayed it out for a corner three, I believe. Not something that we've seen from his game, not something so far this season. Just a lot of good stuff when Keegan Murray put the ball on the ground or on the court today. Really good to see just his progression. I think we've seen a lot, especially recently on the defensive end, honestly, is I think where we've seen the most obvious strides with him being that weak side defender, coming over, drawing charges. And now for us to see really some involvement of his offensive game is a very welcome addition. And it was interesting to me that Mike spent so much time talking about Keegan's game. I mean, a lot of the questions, to your point, were directed towards Keegan, but he was brutally honest, and he's been brutally honest all year. But even mentioning the fact that something I've mentioned countless times of Keegan really getting his shit sent repeatedly.
Yeah.
And he pretty much all but said it, that Keegan has gone up quite a few times and gotten his shot sent quite a bit this year. And he was impressed to see Keegan continually going at the rim with the kind of aggression that they want him to go at. And it was really good to see. I think it wasn't a complete, I think all tonight was missing was really a Keegan Murray draw charge. And and I think at that point you can kind of say he had a complete game. But tonight I totally agree with you. I think offensively, especially, this was Keegan Murray's best game. And for him to pull down 14 rebounds is incredible. And if, I'm not asking him to pull down 14 every game, and I don't think Mike is either, but if we can get 7 consistently from him on top of what Domas gives you, and what Trey Lyles has been providing on the glass as well, that could definitely help this team, who's one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA, especially without Domas. So very, very good. Very good to see Keegan getting better throughout his rookie year, especially after his struggles in the middle of the season.
Absolutely. And shout out to everybody in the live stream here. Anybody listening to the audio or watching on YouTube, we're planning on doing these live streams after home games. And yeah, the chat here says Christian Brennan making a Keegan highlight reel as we speak to send him a sigh.
Right.
And
it's all propaganda.
Right.
It's all propaganda.
When it comes to just the rebounding from Keegan, this is the second game in a row we've seen double-digit rebounds, but I think it's important context that game against the Lakers was without Sabonis. Mm-hmm. And that was something Keegan talked about post-game, was that, he wasn't sure if he was going to have the same opportunity to get the boards that he did in the previous game tonight with Domas being there.
Right.
But the quote from him that I have here is, quote, just not relying on Domas to get all the rebounds, getting in there and trying to get at the high point, be assertive. It's just a different mindset that kind of flipped for me, just not relying on other people. I feel like Mike getting on me kind of lit a fire, end quote. Another example of Coach Brown.
Coaching.
And it being well received.
Right.
And I would imagine also communicated well in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just all the credit in the world to Mike Brown. I think that he's done as good of a job as anyone could have ever expected, or better. And also the players have been very responsive. I mean, seeing this growth from Keegan, not only the rebounding, but the finishing at the rim tonight was like, if this can get carried over, it would be great, because Coach also talked about post-game that, like, if he's able to do this a little bit more, we'll play through him more. Mm-hmm. Because right now, the reality is we're not playing through him.
No.
And there's a good reason. They have De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, who had great nights, by the way. We're going to get to Domas, another casual triple-double. De'Aaron had a good night, too. Not great, but, I mean, when you're talking 21, 2, and 3 on 50% from the field, like, that's still a really solid night. And we're just talking about being an average night for De'Aaron. So it's understandable they're not running through Keegan, but if he can continue to do this and they can do that more often, like, that is huge for the just the whole ceiling conversation, because that's honestly where I guess kind of fought back a little bit on the Keegan pick. I just was unsure on the ceiling, but tonight was, you really see like the Chris Middleton that he's talked about.
Right. I'm curious just what your thoughts were when you initially heard Keegan say that he didn't essentially, I mean, the way I received it was he essentially was like, I don't think I need to rebound, but he didn't feel the need. Yeah. Even what he said was a little weird, but essentially not saying that since
other people
since Domas was on the floor, he didn't feel like it was, I don't want to say his job, but he didn't feel a necessity to crash the rebound, the boards with urgency. I think was the best representation of what he was trying to say. But just what did you think about that comment? Because I it's strange to me that he even thought that way.
Yeah. It's definitely surprising, but I also see how you could fall into that. Like, I mean, Domas, we've seen
just
2020
this guy
games.
can
Like
get everything.
He's
right.
literally leading the league in
Yeah.
rebounds.
Yeah.
So I think the idea that like that guy can get the board, put it on the deck himself, or hit me for an outlet pass if I'm up the floor, like
Right.
I think it makes sense. But we're just seeing like normal rookie development stuff, So I think that it's been great. That definitely was surprising to me that he just said pretty much he was just relying on Domas to do it, and he thought he had it covered.
Yeah, right. Which is, it's just a weird thing. Yeah, and that's why I didn't know how to frame it, because I don't think he was trying to say like, that's not my job. I don't rebound, so I didn't feel like I need to. But it was kind of saying that.
Yeah,
where it was just like,
and his numbers didn't make sense. His rebounding numbers didn't make sense at the beginning of this year. He was a really good rebounder in college. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Chat's going wild with
Chat
nicknames.
is going crazy.
Matt George, can I ask you a question?
He's got to go all the way around. There we go. I got it.
Were you even surprised?
What up, everybody?
Matt George of the Locked On Kings podcast.
Stop your booing.
ABC 10. Were you even surprised by Keegan tonight?
Absolutely. I mean, as much as I want to say I knew Keegan is capable of this, like when you see his ability to put the ball on the floor and attack the basket, I thought one of his best plays was one of the last plays he made, which was a take to the basket. He tried to attack off the dribble. He was cut off, spun away, stayed in the lane, reverse finish, or a layup finish with the right hand. Like, to me, that's a significant difference to Keegan's game. And I know Coach Brown has told him, hey, act like you're going to dunk the ball every time you're attacking the basket. And I know Keegan is capable of that, but a highlight dunk is never anything that Keegan's going to show. But he showed strength around the rim. He showed poise. He showed an ability to recognize how his outside game has opened up his ability to attack the basket. And what Keegan showed multiple times tonight that he sprinkles in once or twice or three times every fourth quarter is he makes winning basketball plays. And that's why I think he's so significant and the right pick for the Sacramento Kings. It wasn't just a fit thing for like position, it's a fit for someone who knows how to make winning plays on a team with winning aspirations as a starter right away, which no other rookie is being asked to do. So yeah, I was absolutely surprised by the things Keegan's doing tonight. And the only person not surprised apparently is Keegan, because even Mike Brown was surprised tonight.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask you real quick before I let you get back to work. What stood out to you most in post-game conversations? Because everybody was asked about Keegan. We got Keegan, we got Domas, and we got Coach Brown. And they all were talking about Keegan's big night. What stood out to you most in those post-game conversations?
Well, I really appreciated Coach Brown's answer to one of my questions, talking about what Keegan is being asked to do compared to other rookies. Hey, thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
I'll appreciate that. But one of the things I overheard you guys talking about earlier that I think Keegan was very honest about, I think you guys were just breaking it down, is Keegan being honest and saying, I expected Domantas Sabonis to get every rebound. Like, I think that's real. I think that's a very real thing for a rookie to come into the league and go, I'm with one of the best rebounders in the league. Those are his. Like, I'm not getting in the way. And I don't think that's a laziness thing. I think that's this is what he does. I'm going to get out of his way. And for a rookie to learn that lesson, I think there's hundreds of other players that over the course of their careers have probably wanted to say something like that, but never did out of concern of how it was going to make him look. But I thought Keegan tonight was very real. Like, that's what I thought, and now I'm being asked to do more, and I'm seeing that I can do it while Domas is still getting his. So that transparency from Keegan, I think, is, like, we joke is in the media, Keegan's not the best interview because of kind of his demeanor and the way he answers questions. I think that was the best soundbite we've ever gotten out of Keegan because of how honest it was.
It's got to be. It's got to be. Well, I appreciate you, Matt George. Again, Locked On Kings, ABC 10. The biggest Keegan Murray lover to ever exist.
Yeah.
A+.
Matt can take his victory laps now.
B+. This was, I mean, you can't say enough great things about the growth of Keegan Murray tonight. Like, again, the biggest thing for me is that off the dribble game. I think these rebounds could just be something that we see consistently now. 14, hopefully. Obviously not, right? Hopefully. But like 6, 7 a night.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If he can fit between that 6 and 8 range, I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think the same. Coach also mentioned post-game that just when people are thinking about Rookie of the Year conversations, when the people are thinking about all rookie first team, that keep in mind the context, as Matt was kind of just talking about there, that these other guys are allowed to make so many mistakes. Like Keegan is contributing to a winning team. I don't think he's going to be in Rookie of the Year conversations unless things pick up like this. I think it would take so much. Paolo Banchero's running away with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Paolo's award.
All rookie first team's totally reasonable.
I don't know how they structure it. I don't know if it's like forwards and guards or if it's just all
I don't
five.
either. That'll be something we look into, but I think that's within question here. And I just hope that he can keep this up, because I think it's been encouraging, the rebounding thing, since he's been called out for Mike. He's like picked it up since then, and we haven't seen a game where it slowed down.
And we're not just talking rebounding either. I mean, like I mentioned, like he's stepped up huge on the defensive end as well. That weak side, he's became really good at taking charges as well. Like it's not just one aspect of his game that has improved since Mike really challenged him. It does feel like his overall game is just taking a step up. And, you know, again, like we mentioned earlier, he's starting to put the ball on the ground now. You know, we haven't seen a lot of Keegan Murray dribbling, and can he create for others? Can he still create his own shot? We've seen a lot of coming off of screens, which totally makes sense, because the Kings have the best screen setter in the NBA right now, and it makes you see Kevin Huerter take advantage of the same things. But just all aspects of Keegan's game seem to be opening up right now, and now is the time. You know, I've been thinking about it, and we're at game 44 now, I believe. And that's for a rookie, that's huge. In college, you play 33, 35 regular season games max. And then if you make a big tournament run, maybe you hit 40. So this is now, at this point, the longest Keegan Murray has played a basketball season in his life. And I'm sure with that, you know, naturally, as you go through the progression of a season, you get better, you learn things, you adjust to things. And with the benefit of an 82 game NBA schedule is you have so much extra room on top of those 30, 40 games to build on and show what you've learned through the first half of your career. So I expect, like you said, I kind of expect us to see a different Keegan Murray moving forward. And if this is even a portion of the Keegan Murray we get moving forward, look out, because I just watched a clip of Kevin Huerter saying Keegan kind of carried their offense tonight. And if they can have
God, I never thought that we would hear that.
You know what is insane? And I just realized Keegan Murray was 1 point away from scoring 30, which would have added yet another King. That would have been 7 Kings this season.
7
to score 30.
Okay,
which
wait,
leads
hold
the
on,
NBA.
hold on. Okay, so obviously De'Aaron, Domas, Harrison, Kevin, Malik.
Yep. And the 6th one is
Davion?
the biggest one. Not most points, but
Terrence Davis.
TD.
That's right.
TNT TD, 30 points. 6 Kings have finished with 30
That's
points.
pretty wild.
It's insane. It leads the NBA. No one else could even come close. People are lucky if they can have 3 people on their team score 30 points. And we're halfway through this year.
Shit, Trey Lyles almost had that in a quarter.
Whoa. I'm telling you, like, it's really, really crazy. So if they can add Keegan Murray as yet another, I mean, he's been a decent offensive weapon throughout this season, but if he can have the potential to have 30 points on a given night, any given night, it again is just adding to the arsenal that is this Kings offense, and just the amount of people that can kill you on a given night. Great shit.
It's as good as it gets, and I don't really know what else there is to say about Keegan. He's been phenomenal. It'll be interesting to see how he continues to adjust as teams start to defend him differently.
Right.
Keegan Murray's big night somehow overshadowed an 18, 14, and 13 night from Domas. Yeah. I honestly didn't even realize. I knew he had a triple-double, but I didn't realize it was 13 and 14.
I didn't realize he finished with 14.
That's pretty. 14 assists is crazy, bro.
Crazy.
And it was just like, I don't know that there was ever a point. There was maybe a small 2-minute stretch where I was like, okay, Domas is just going at Jalen Williams. Yeah. Both of them.
Jalen Williams kind of held his own. He made it different.
Okay.
He was frustrating Domas. I mean, what was he finished? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's normally 7 of 9.
5 of 9.
5 of 9 tonight. Like that's struggling for Domas for sure. And Keegan even said it in his post-game press conference. Didn't feel like Domas really had a good game.
It's so wild.
He
Actually,
did not have a good
this
game,
is
and the
just
man
to be
finishes
expected.
off with a triple-double, 18, 14, and 11. Or 13. 18, 14, and 13. 14 assists.
on 5 of 9 from the field, 8 of 8 from the free throw line.
Dumb.
And a broken thumb
Right.
still, by the way.
Right.
That's not gone.
It's not going away either.
It's still wrapped up. And
Kings yet again finished 5 people, 10 points. All
starters in double digits.
I think they're 14-3 now when all starters scored over 10 points.
So not to be a buzzkill, but
Let's
people
do it.
are having this.
That's what we do best.
People have been starting this. It is what we do best. I'm not going to lie. People are starting this like Sabonis MVP conversation.
Right.
First of all, let's start with this. To me, season ends right now. He's third team All NBA.
Absolutely, no question.
Because it goes centers.
Yes.
In all
Jokic,
NBA
Embiid,
teams.
and then him.
Jokic, Embiid, and Sabonis, and those other 2 guys are actual MVP candidates.
Yes.
To be honest, and Domas is not yet.
Yeah.
If you look at the numbers that we're talking about for Sabonis, as I pull this up here,
I think the big part of this entire conversation is just as long as you clarify that we're just talking conversation.
right?
I think
That's a good point.
that's fine. If you want to say Domas is in the MVP conversation, that is a totally reasonable, acceptable take to have. When we're talking like, is this guy going to finish top 3, top 5? That's just not going to happen.
It's not just because there's insane seasons happening. Like Domas is putting up 18.
Jokic is literally doing what Sabonis is doing with more points, more assists, and not more rebounds. But
I can tell you the numbers right
to the number one. Or what are they? Are they the 1 seed in the West?
Unless something changed tonight,
Right.
They were tied for 1 with Memphis. But Domas is 18.8 points, 12.7 rebounds, 7.2 assists on 60% from the field. Right. Jokic, meanwhile, 25 points, 11 rebounds, so 1.7 less, but 9.9 assists, which is 2.7 more, which is a pretty damn big difference. And he's a little bit more efficient, 62.6% from the field. So I think that, you're talking 7 more points right there, 2 more assists, 1 less rebound, more efficient. Like Jokic, this is the back-to-back MVP we're talking about, by the way. The fact that
Gotta be 3 times.
It's somewhat comparable, not really, but like the fact that you can even look at those numbers is talking so much, because like you're saying, Jokic could damn well end up being the 3-time MVP.
Yep.
The other guys in these conversations, Luka Doncic putting up 33 points a night, along with 8.8 assists, 8.9 rebounds. Right, Joel Embiid 33.6, which is ridiculous.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, on 9.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists. Jason Tatum, 31 points, 4.3 assists, 8.5 rebounds on what's been the best team in the league.
Yep.
Like, I think you have a good point. In the conversation, sure, just for like when you're having the sake of the conversation, but when it actually comes down to who's getting picked, Domas still would have to do more. And I think what it would take, to be honest, is the Kings like, if they comfortably end up being a 3 seed, then it does become a very real conversation in my mind. It's still super difficult, but like in my mind, Domas isn't getting up to this 25 point per game thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's where the issue is for me.
It would take the Kings being a top seed, right?
It would take a top seed, and like it's just the facts of the matter. He would have to score more than 18 points a game. Like you would have to, especially with
recently he's been about 22.
Right. With what Jokic is doing at 25 and 10 assists and 11 rebounds, like you're going to have to up that point average up to 20, 23 to even be in like the realistic conversation. And then, if you lead the league in rebounds, that's kind of your stake. If you're close in assists, which he's still 2 whole assists behind Jokic, there's again, he's not it, but I by no means am trying to shit on the dude. Like he's having an incredible season, like you said, all NBA top, probably 3rd team all NBA.
He's got to be. Somebody in the chat asked, by the way, like who is
I saw
who's
that.
even close to him.
Somebody
mentioned Bam.
Yes,
I think that Bam is the
he's
only
the
close
fourth
one.
All
Like,
NBA right now.
if Robert Williams stayed healthy, then maybe he becomes in the conversation. But after that, like, it's really tough, man. Like,
for
you're
centers,
talking,
Brook Lopez.
You're talking Brook Lopez. You could maybe talk like Nick Claxton. Like, I mean, but this isn't in the same realm.
Right. We're talking way different things here.
Yeah, and there was another big that I thought of
Walker Kessler. No.
Yeah, like I don't know, like Clint Capella or
we're talking big drop
Jared
off
Allen. Like,
big drop off.
It's not the same. So yeah, I think that Domas should 100% as of right now be that guy. Be the third team All NBA, and he's been everything to this Kings team. I totally got distracted by chat there for half a sec. I don't know. Zach Collins is kind of up there. Oh, what's up, Blake?
Who is that guy?
If anybody in the chat has any sort of questions they want to throw our way as we start to wind down here, let us know. I know that's why I got a little caught off by chat there.
Ridiculous.
The Kings are sitting at the 3 seed right now. New Orleans lost to the Orlando Magic tonight.
What world are we living in?
How crazy is that? Just like that we've been able to say that.
It doesn't make any sense, bro. It does not make any sense.
It's like they are 2.5 games up on the 5 seed. And I guess I'm crazy because I feel like, the 1 or 2 seed is unreachable when they're 6 games behind that.
Right.
But I also feel like them being 5 games ahead of the 11 seed still makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yes. Right. I think that's fair. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but I think it's kind of that natural. We really haven't been in this situation before where we're winning a lot of games. Like, we're winning more games than we should. And
6 in a row.
Right. 5 game, if you're 5 games ahead of somebody, it makes sense to think that the Kings at any point can go on a 6-game losing streak or a 5-game losing streak or a 4-game losing streak. But the facts are we haven't seen that so far this year. I don't know. I think the 4-game losing streak to start the season is their longest losing streak of this year so far. It's going to kind of be tough for the Kings to lose.
Not lost more than, I want to say they haven't lost to more than 2 in a row.
Right.
I looked at this the other day. I'm hesitating because I don't want to be wrong with that, but I believe that's true.
Let me see. Shout out Moran. Moran put out a good visual of their wins and losses I saw on Twitter. It was like
Moran from the Kings Herald. Shout out.
Right here. They started off with 4 straight. They did lose 3 straight right after the 7-game win streak.
That's right. Okay. Oh, yes. And that was against a second night of a back-to-back traveling in Atlanta.
Memphis.
It was, and then they beat Memphis.
Sixers?
Then they traveled to Atlanta, lost that game, and then they lost in Boston, and then they lost to the Suns, which was the second night of a back-to-back after rough travel. And then you lost to what was the best team in the East and what was at the time the best team in the West. So I thought that was like totally reasonable, and understandable. My question now, somebody else mentioned it in the chat here, the fact that they're 4 games above the 6th seed.
Yeah.
And the 6th seed is it. You want to be 6 and above. Mm-hmm. Like, if you are not in the play-in, because the play-in, like, I'm not convinced that it's the better team wins in a basketball, bro.
No.
In basketball, anybody can win any
game.
Anybody can win any game. And there's a lot of these Kings players that the reality is haven't played in postseason basketball. Coach talks about that a lot.
There's a lot of conversations that I can't wait to have about postseason basketball, and that to me is one of the biggest ones that we're absolutely going to have. Just the lack of experience on this team, really, especially with big games in general, but also with playoff games and in winner go home games. We're talking Harrison Barnes, Matthew Dellavedova, and Kevin Huerter.
Jesus Christ.
I think are the only 3 players that have been in a playoff game.
Well, Sabonis has he? Yeah.
Sabonis, I know
with
that
Depot.
they were doing really well in the bubble season.
He definitely played in the postseason with Oladipo.
Okay.
I actually have this right here.
I don't know if they played.
Let me make sure this is right.
Playoff series. He's made
been
the play
in 3
3
playoff
times,
series, but he's gotten eliminated in the first round every single time.
Right.
And in the first one, he didn't play at all. This was an
very
OKC
early
team.
in his career.
Yeah, Domas was. And then I'm trying to see who else on this team. Put some respect on PJ Dozier's name, bro. What are we doing? Terrence Davis probably was in the postseason.
No, he wasn't. He was there for a
Toronto.
season and a half, right?
I would imagine that he was.
Right. That was probably his rookie season.
But guys that aren't really playing all that much, like
right.
the standouts, like you said, are Dellavedova, but Dellavedova is not really playing much. He can speak on it.
Also,
right?
HB hasn't
Harrison
been there
Barnes is the one. It's been a
10
long
years.
time, bro. Long time. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. But my question to you, how realistic is it at this point to think that the Kings can be one of these top 6 seeds?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at this point,
do you expect it
at this
do.
point? Oh, yeah. As a top 6 seed, this team should be a playoff team at this moment in time. Like, it's really crazy to say it is, but they have played. I think they still, Mike talked about it today, they still have room to grow, especially on the defensive end. We've seen that their offense has been there at times. It was incredible to start the season, went through a little lull. We're starting to see them pick it back up with, 3 or 4 straight games with 130 points. That only stopped because Domas is out of the lineup. Now they have back-to-back games of 116.
I think it was 5 straight.
It might have been. Yeah, it definitely might have been. Like, this team's offense is still there. If they start playing defense, like, there's a lot of room to get better. We talked earlier about Keegan Murray's now improvement. That's another weapon to this team. De'Aaron talked about the other day in their ESPN interview about how, look, Domas has been here for a calendar year now, but Keegan hasn't been here for 6 months. Herter hasn't been here for 6 months. Monk hasn't been here for 6 months. There's a lot of new guys. Mike Brown hasn't been here for 6 months. There's a lot of new guys on this team that they're still trying to figure out each other's game. And, you know, we're talking about them going against not necessarily the top playoff teams, but there's a lot of teams like the Warriors, like the Suns, who have had time to learn their teammates and learn their roster and learn their style of play and learn how to win in moments like the playoffs and stuff like that. And this team just has so much growing still to do that, I think we're just seeing the beginning of this. And if they don't finish a top 6 seed, it's kind of it's a failure, but it's absolutely disappointing.
I struggle, man, because
you expect a Kings team to do that, sure. But if this is not the Sacramento Kings, if we're not talking about a 16-year
no, for sure, like where they're at
also,
now.
I don't think the problem is you can't not mention those things. Like, it would be malpractice to not acknowledge the fact that we are talking about a team that is historically a losing franchise and a team that is still in the midst of this 16-year playoff drought. Like, there's still, they're going to come up against another roadblock, and they're going to have to figure out how to get on the other side of that roadblock. There's no way the rest of this season is just going to be coasting, but I don't believe that this team is just going to bottom out unless we see, knock on wood, something happen to the team's 2 stars. And maybe I think they can possibly survive a De'Aaron Fox week and a half out or so, but Domantas Sabonis was out the other day and they were able to pull out that victory. But I think we saw a completely different looking team the other day. So maybe if Domas goes out, that could be how some things happen. And we're talking about a guy who has 1 thumb. So that's not out of the question for sure. But, if this team stays healthy, which they have all year, to their medical staff's credit, and to Mike Brown's credit for managing their load, it's
pause.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how else to say that. I'm just gonna blow right through it.
Pause.
Jesus Christ. Point is they've
question for you.
I don't even know.
Question for you.
I lost my train of thought.
Question for you.
Why do I even do this?
Have we possibly thought that maybe Richaun Holmes has too many thumbs?
That's, I have not. No, I have not thought that. I have not had that thought. But we're seeing that it's definitely a thing. You don't need them both. That's for sure. It's kind of like, what is it, a kidney? I think you only need 1 kidney. Maybe you only need 1 thumb to play basketball, turns out.
Yeah.
I think the real thing for Rashawn the other day was the minutes, though. I think him playing 30 minutes was a big reason.
And they played a different style. They didn't ask him to do these dribble handoffs and
Right.
playmaking off all like their split actions and stuff like that. Right. Which, by the way, I guess we will say tonight, like I've been really impressed by coaches' willingness to just try different shit defensively. Like we saw a box and one for a long time tonight in that fourth quarter.
Super surprising.
With De'Aaron on SGA.
Clearly
and then
worked.
Kind of the box
too.
from there. And then at some point they would kind of break it up and go back into their man, just totally throwing OKC off. And it's a credit. Again, I feel like I've said this a lot, but it's a credit to Mike Brown, but also a credit to the players, which Mike is clear to point out. Their ability to pick up on those things quickly and kind of capitalize on them and make it work. Kings are on a 6-game winning streak right now. Only 2 teams, Memphis lost tonight. Only 2 teams in the NBA with a longer winning streak than the Sacramento Kings.
One is Philadelphia, who the Kings play.
Philadelphia is at 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who am I? Memphis.
You were thinking Memphis, but Memphis just lost tonight.
Right.
Memphis lost tonight. The only 2.
Oh, let's see here. Only 2 on a longer win streak than the Kings. Kings are now at 6.
Yep.
Timberwolves?
No. Don't overthink it.
No. Okay. Celtics and the Nuggets.
Yep.
Okay.
The 2 leading teams in their conferences. The
beautiful.
Nuggets are on a 9-game winning streak. The Celtics are on an 8-game winning streak.
Wow.
Like, I don't know, as much as I am skeptical of can they keep this 6-game win streak or can they keep this top 6 seed, it would kind of take them blowing it, because my hesitancy here is I think some of these other teams are going to figure it out.
For sure.
The
Golden
Warriors
State
are going to go on a run.
Right.
That one is not a question to me.
Clippers could. I mean, the Clippers
could.
If Kawhi and
PG
string together 30 straight games.
If they can play, the Pelicans could definitely end up back up there. I think they'll still be in that conversation.
I don't think the Pelicans have had 10 games this year with Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum, and they are still the 4 seed in the Western Conference. So I completely agree.
The Kings, I mean, knock on wood, have not dealt with any injuries, really. We've seen a few. Right. But
nothing major, though.
No.
I mean, we've seen other teams miss, Steph Curry just missed a month. Anthony Davis missed a month.
Right.
Devin Booker has missed 2 months. Right. There's teams that have real serious injury concerns. And for the most part, I think I said it the other day, Domas and De'Aaron have missed a combined 5 games this year.
Which is crazy.
Insane. So, the Kings have been very, very fortunate with their injury luck. And don't get it twisted. That's a huge reason why they have had the success that they have had this year.
Even if Harrison Barnes or Keegan Murray went out for an extended stretch.
Right. If you had to start KZ for 15 games.
Or you're going to Trey Lyles or
That's
you're trying to do Malik Monk, who straight up, by the way, in the midst of all this has been horrible. Really, really bad. Malik Monk played 15 minutes tonight and ended the game with 5 points. He's really been struggling as of late. But steps up when they kind of need him to, or he will still have his nights. I don't ever feel like I think I said this on the last pod, or maybe it was a different one that we were on, that Malik Monk will win you games for sure, pretty much by himself every once in a while. And I've never really felt like he's lost them a game. As much as maybe he doesn't have nights where he's on, he's not going out there and losing you the game. Right. He's still kind of doing everything within the flow. So I think that's encouraging. I'm really hesitant to believe in this top 6 seed, but with each passing game, I believe more and more. I think these next 3 games of this homestand are huge. You got the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow night, second night of a back-to-back, which is a super tough matchup. And then you're playing against the Memphis Grizzlies, which has got to be the biggest game in this stretch. I mean, the Philly one is pretty big as well, but Memphis is a team that's kind of had Sacramento's number as of late, it's felt like. So that's a huge one. It's a team that you could maybe try to gain some ground on for that 2 spot. And then they play the Toronto Raptors, which I know the Raptors have really been struggling this year, but that game in Toronto was super chippy.
Yeah.
That was the one that Mike got ejected. So I'm really interested to see how that one goes. I think that's going to be a chippy game. And the size and length of that team is just something that could give Sacramento problems and did give them some problems when they played in Toronto. So I think we're going to learn a lot about this team. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. But throughout these next 3 games before they then have what I believe is a 7-game road trip.
Right.
Last thing before we get out of here, if anybody has any questions in the chat, get them in now. That way we see them before we get to close out of here. But PJ Dozier just got signed to a second 10-day contract, which I thought was interesting. I'm fairly certain, maybe I'm irresponsible for speaking on this without being 100%, but fairly certain you can only sign a guy to 2 10-day contracts.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then you would just have to bring him onto your roster. I asked Coach prior to the last home game that was, I believe, against the Los Angeles Lakers. So take it for what you will. Or maybe it wasn't the Lakers.
No, it was the Rockets.
The Rockets, thank you. The second Rockets game. So keep in mind, there's been 2 games that have taken place since this quote. But I asked Coach a little bit of what he's seen from PJ now that he's had him around in practices, because I would love to see PJ in games to get an idea of what PJ Dozier really brings.
Yeah.
But I also understand that, like, they are still getting an idea of what this guy brings. It's just all behind closed doors. So here's what Coach had to say about PJ. Yeah, Coach, it hasn't been long, but what have you learned in these few days about PJ Dozier as a person and a player?
First thing comes to mind is just his maturity. His maturity level is off the charts. You know,
it might not be playing.
Need guys like that, especially when you have a young, inexperienced team in terms of winning. You need to have.
Can you hear this?
Help me, Chad.
Guys like PJ and Deli and HB in the mix, because all those guys have played in the playoffs and they played real minutes in the playoffs before with good teams.
Sorry,
and so his maturity level is extremely high. He's long. He's versatile. He can play a few different positions, and he just seems like his feel is pretty good too, because we've thrown a lot at him in a short amount of time, and I don't know if there's been one time that I know I've had to say, no, PJ, don't go here, but go here, whether it's on the defense end of the floor or offense end of the floor. And, you know, when you have that with a guy that communicates as well as he does, in my opinion, you have a pretty good player.
All right. Well, we couldn't hear it on our end, but I remember Coach talking about his defensive versatility. PJ Dozier has a pretty damn long wingspan. He's got good size to him as well, and just good instincts for the game, I think, is something that Coach mentioned, if I'm remembering correctly. And one of the other really big things is he has experience being on a really good team. And obviously that was with Jordy Fernandez in Denver. So I'm sure they already have a decent impression on what PJ Dozier brings. But that'll be interesting to see kind of how they move forward from there. They let go of Chima Monecki, which I think is something that we've talked about before, but maybe we've skipped over it because there's just been so much other notable things going on with the Kings.
Winning.
But, right. And Chima did just sign with AS Monaco, by the way. Which is in the French First League. I think he was on a team there previously in his career, but he just signed with the best record in the league, and he's on a team with Mike James, if you remember who that is.
MVP of EuroLeague. That's supposed
right.
to be like EuroLeague god.
And there's another guy on his team. I'm going to see if I can find it here.
Who? Mike James. Mike James is KD's
and Donta Hall.
Can't tell you anything about that.
I slightly recognize the name, and if I pulled up the face, I bet it would stand out. But he's in the same league as Victor Wembanyama. Shout out, Coach. So that'll be interesting. Shout out to Chima. But PJ Dozier is an interesting pickup. I thought that maybe I was reading a little bit too much into it, but to me, it makes me question how they feel about Davion a little bit. The fact that they bring in another kind of versatile defensive guard, but I think that you can never really have too many if they're actually hitting open shots, which Davion has as of late. That's about it. Somebody in chat said, Brennan, can I get you a cutout of Robert Woodard? It would go perfectly right next to my Jamias Ramsey cutout. Chima's over there scouting Vic. Yes, that's exactly what he's there for. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you got, man?
I did have something and I forgot it.
Kevin Huerter won Defensive Player of the Game, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely did want to talk about that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I was looking at his box score. Kevin Huerter finishes off with 1 block shot, no steals. I think Keegan mentioned
Like-
deflections.
Yeah,
I
which
think
made
he
it maybe
said
it was like 6 or 7.
The funny thing is, I looked at Herter's box score the other night, and if I'm not mistaken, he had 2 steals, 2 blocks the other night, and I thought it was weird
So.
that he didn't get defensive player of the game chain then. And the other night against the Lakers, he had 2 steals, 1 block, and I thought he should have gotten it then, but they gave it to Rashawn. And you and I think we talked about it on the Return of the Roar podcast, where it felt like more one of those. You give it to him just because, like, you want to reward something. It might not be defensive specific, but you like Rashawn. Rashawn just had a great game in general, and vibe wise, it felt like he deserved some sort of recognition or accolade, and so they gave him the defensive player of the game chain. Maybe it was just a makeup chain. Keegan did finish. Mike's there. It always seems like their go-to is to say defensive rebounds. Keegan had 11 defensive rebounds today. So I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to give it to Kevin Herter, but whatever. Spreading the wealth, I guess. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it was a little surprising.
I remember
for
what
sure.
I wanted to talk about. Kings just went 6-1 on this 7-game easy streak, if you want to call it that. Towards the beginning of the season, I looked at this stretch of games and they stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, it was Lakers, Orlando, the back-to-back against OKC. Then you had San Antonio. Then you had the Lakers again. And then at the time, we didn't know OKC was going to be playing the way that they are now. But that looked like it was 7 games against 7 easier opponents. It started off rough. They lost the the coming back from the road trip. They lost to Atlanta. And then they come out the 2 nights later and lose to the Lakers. It was looking like it was going to be bleak times. That feels like it was so long ago. And for the Kings to go 6-1 against those teams that it felt like they should beat, I think, again, that's a huge reason why I just believe that this team is legit. Like, they've beaten teams that they should beat. Yeah. And you don't have to beat the elite team. You don't have to have a winning record against the best teams in the NBA. All you have to do is beat the teams that you should beat. Beat the San Antonios of the world. Beat the Rockets. They swept them, took care of business against them at home. Take care of the teams that you should beat, and you'll be in a position at the end of the year that you'll probably have more wins than losses. And as they win 6 in a row here, they are now 7 games above 500. So just good to see them take care of business and not let any of these games slip when they easily could have, and it would have been a tough pill to swallow. They are now 18-5 against teams below 500 on the season.
Damn. Yeah. Super impressive. They're definitely taking care of business. This has been a big stretch for them to be able to kind of solidify themselves as this 3-4 seed. It's been absolutely huge. I think that protecting home court has been something that's needed to be pretty important and kind of improve for this team. I think they've done as good as you could hope on the road. 11-9 on the road. They're one of only now 2 teams in the Western Conference. After Memphis lost tonight, they moved to 500 on the road. But Denver is the only other team above 500 on the road at 11-10
in the West.
But the difference is at home, the Kings are 15-9. Right. Memphis is 20-3. Denver is 22-3.
Right.
Even the teams below them, New Orleans 17-6, 17-7 for Dallas.
Right. Golden State 17-5.
Golden State was crazy, and then 6-18 on the road makes no sense. But yeah, that's been huge for sure. Right. Just got sent the post-game quotes from
I thought there was
OKC.
Avery's game notes.
And it's just so weird to hear like another team or see another team like talk about the Kings like they're such a good team.
Right.
So I'll just read this real quick. Thunder head coach Mark.
Dude, let's play a guessing game on who the hell is OKC's head coach. It's not Billy Donovan anymore.
Mark Daigneault.
Sure.
We're gonna go with that. Sure. I really should know how to say this, but it's a tough one.
Wembayaya.
Quote, I thought, first of all, that was a great game. That was a fun game. Great crowd, great environment. I thought in the second half, they really tested us. I thought Sacramento played really well. They showed a lot of poise in the second half. They really tested us in a lot of different ways. It was a great challenge for us. So I really enjoyed that. I thought offensively in the second half, I thought we were a little hasty in the third quarter when they made a run, but we had some nice attacks too. We'll take a look at it. I thought we competed tonight. The guys did a good job. We competed together, dove into the competition in a great environment against a really good team. It's something we can really learn from. The other coach is really just being like,
that's what I heard.
Yeah,
he said
we're going to watch the film, and we played a really good team tonight.
Sounds like Luke Walton to me.
What the hell? What the hell?
Right.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
People are asking in the chat why Fox got teed up. So,
because he's
Fox
a salty ass boy.
The
fool has
he's got a lot of teas right now.
Yeah.
I don't have the number, but Frank was talking about it, that like I think he's at 8 or 9, and once you reach 16, is that what it is? That you get suspended for a game, and each one after that you get suspended for a game. And if we're talking postseason basketball, like if you start to get closer to that number, that gets pretty concerning. I think that if De'Aaron needed to, he could go games without getting texts, obviously, like if he was super focused on that, you know. And I get why he's been frustrated, but tonight's call was he got whistled on a call against Lou Dort. He felt like
was it
Lou
on that
Dort,
drive?
He felt like Lou Dort put his elbows up. He kept kind of doing this motion to anybody on YouTube. Talked to the refs on his way off the court. Mike subbed him out. That was his normal sub time. It wasn't subbing him out so he could cool down or anything. Although coach did mention post game, he thought like we were talking and complaining a little bit too much in that first half, which felt a little bit targeted at De'Aaron
very
to me.
Pointed.
I don't think De'Aaron's the only one, but De'Aaron's obviously the standout when he gets a tech. But he kind of kept talking as he was going, ended up sitting on the bench, and that ref, the same one that he was complaining to before that blew the whistle, ended up right in front of the Kings bench. He kept talking and got that tech. So for anybody unclear kind of what was
talking shit on the bench.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
he was unhappy. He got whistled for a call that he felt like should have been offensive. So I get it. I've been surprised at the amount of tees this year from him for sure. But yeah, I think it's going to do it, man. We got to get out of here.
Let's do it. Yeah,
hopefully
we
can
still
see this beam.
Right.
Appreciate everybody hopping in the chat.
Yeah,
we'll definitely be doing this again tomorrow night. It sounds like we'll have a guest with us as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, so we'll see about that one. And go Kings. They've been playing really well recently, so I'm super encouraged by what we've seen from Keegan Murray. And Harrison Barnes been playing great recently. Like they're doing great right now, and it's been a great thing to watch. If you can make it out to Golden One Center, the environment in here has been amazing. One of the quotes in here as well was Jalen Williams talking about the environment. The good one, the Santa Clara Jalen Williams, who, I don't know. I love Keegan Murray. I love Keegan Murray.
It's Keegan's night. Let's not go there.
But talking about like it was a sold out night. It was a great environment. Like if you can make it to Golden One Center, it's an absolute blast in here, and you're probably leaving with a free crumble cookie as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's been great. Appreciate everybody that's hopped in this chat. Expect us again tomorrow. Anybody that's listening to the audio form, if you rather, you can see us on YouTube, and anybody watching on YouTube, you can see us in audio form or hear us in audio form as well on any major podcast listening platform. So appreciate everybody hopping in here once again, and definitely take a look at the Kings Herald to support local independent Kings coverage from all the great guys and gals that right there that I've become good friends with. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Kings Pulse podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and hear from us again in the next couple days. Tomorrow.